Christopher Nolan won the Oscar, made Oppenheimer, broke box office records, and after that, any normal director might think time to take a break. But Nolan isn't that guy. He looked at Hollywood and basically said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to take one of the oldest poems in humanity, put Matt Damon in a Greek helmet, spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and shoot everything in IMAX. And then came the Odyssey. The trailer dropped and the internet went wild. Robert Pattinson is in a scene with Tom Holland. He approaches, looks him in the eyes, and whispers a single word with all the seriousness in the world, Dad, in an adaptation of Homer in a Christopher Nolan film. The scene is talking about something that truly hurts, a son being humiliated for suffering from his father's absence. It's a family wound within an epic story, but Dad comes in with an energy that's way too modern for that moment. You understand Nolan's intention, but you also get why a lot of people felt it was jarring. I'll be honest, I think using Dad was a mistake. That scene needed something heavier, and the word didn't deliver, but a dialogue mistake in a trailer doesn't define a film. Was it a conscious choice, a tonal mistake, or is Nolan trying to make this pain feel more current, more uncomfortable? And look, I've watched this trailer several times because there's a lot more going on in it than it seems. So come with me. To understand why this matters, we need to go back a bit. The Odyssey is the Greek epic by Homer which tells the story of Odysseus, king of Ithaca, trying to return home after the Trojan War. But this return turns into a years-long nightmare. On the way, he faces everything: cyclopes, sirens, witches, nymphs, cannibal giants, angry gods, and one storm after another. Meanwhile, in Ithaca, his wife Penelope is surrounded by men who want to take Odysseus' place, and his son Telemachus grows up without a father, not knowing if he is still alive or if he has become just a story told by others. And look at the heavy question this story carries. What is left of a man when he spends years trying to return home, but the home keeps aging without him 3,000 years later? And that question still hurts. Maybe that's exactly why Nolan chose this project. Before the announcement, no one knew what his next film would be. Since he always keeps things mysterious, the internet started guessing all sorts of things. Some people bet on a vampire movie set in ancient times, others guessed Blue Thunder, an 80s helicopter thriller. With Nolan, you can never rule anything out. There was also a rumor about an adaptation of The Prisoner, a British series about a man trapped in a mysterious village. Every week a different theory would pop up, and in the end, Nolan came up with something no one was expecting. Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Pattinson, Zendaya, Charlize Theron, Lupita Nyong'o, Elliot Page. Nolan wasn't playing around, not at all. And there's one detail that changes everything. Odyssey is the first film in history to be shot entirely on IMAX film cameras, not digital, real film. Nolan called the CEO of IMAX and said, if you can solve the technical problems, I'll shoot the entire film in IMAX. They went and built brand new cameras from scratch, lighter, 30% quieter, and with technology that had never existed before. Have you ever walked into an IMAX theater and felt like the screen was swallowing you up? This film was made entirely for that moment. Every scene, every close-up, every battle was designed for that experience. It's the kind of film that changes depending on where you watch it, and visually, the trailer delivers. The battles look enormous. Troy in Flames has that end-of-the-world weight. The sea doesn't just appear as a beautiful backdrop. It seems alive and dangerous. And the opening line of the trailer sums everything up in one sentence. Odysseus looks to the horizon and says, "No one can stand between my men and home, not even the gods." But right after the dad moment, there's another part that also feels off. Odysseus is leading Greek warriors. Swords, shields, epic war, and he shouts something along the lines of, "Let's go." Does it work as energy? It does. But for a moment, it feels more like a coach pushing his team than the king of Ithaca entering a legendary war. The trailer wants to be epic, but it also wants to sound modern. That line is very thin, and it's the film's biggest risk. Nolan wants to make Homer accessible, but he needs to be careful not to make it too modern. But before condemning, there's an important defense. Nolan clearly doesn't want to make a museum piece of a film, and that makes sense. The Odyssey didn't survive for 3,000 years because people were forced to read it. It survived because at its core, it's a story about a family broken by time. Odysseus spent years away from home. His son grew up without answers. Penelope was left alone, holding Ithaca together while other men tried to take his place. And when this man finally tries to return, the question isn't just whether he'll make it back, but whether there's still a home waiting for him in the same way. And about the accent, no one really knows exactly how a conversation in ancient Greek would sound to us today. Nolan made his choice. Now comes the part that a lot of people didn't notice. Zendaya and Lupita Nyong'o barely appear clearly in the trailer. That's strange because they're huge names. If Zendaya really is playing Athena, as has been reported, she's not just any character. Athena is a central force in this story. She guides, protects, interferes, and pushes Odysseus and Telemachus where they need to go. Nolan doesn't hide an important character by accident. When he hides something, it's because it will change everything when it appears. So hiding Athena in the trailer seems like a strategy. He's showing war, the sea, human conflict, and physical threats, but he's saving the more divine side for later. Elliot Page is also confirmed in the cast, but his role is still being kept under wraps, and some fans believe he might be connected to the underworld, maybe as Achilles. In the original poem, Odysseus meets Achilles among the dead. And Achilles, who was the greatest warrior of the Trojan War, does not appear in a glorious way. He appears as someone who has realized that dying as a legend isn't worth as much as staying alive. If Nolan really is saving this scene, it could be one of the strongest parts of the film. And there's a scene in the trailer that most people ignored, a hand coming out of the sand toward Odysseus. Everything there seems to scream underworld. In the original story, Odysseus summons the dead and speaks with them, including his own mother, who died waiting for him. It's one of the heaviest scenes in the entire poem, and Nolan put it in the trailer without explaining anything. Ben Safdie appears in moments connected to the Trojan War and also in images that evoke the underworld. In mythology, Agamemnon returns from the war and meets a terrible fate in his own home. He almost serves as a dark mirror for Odysseus. The question in the Odyssey isn't just whether he'll manage to return, it's what awaits him when he gets there. Everything he left behind kept on living without him. And you know what's curious? Nolan has spent his entire career making films about the same thing without anyone noticing. In Memento, a man trying to piece his own life together from fragments. In Inception, amid all that craziness of dreams within dreams, what drives the character is something simple: getting back to his children. In Interstellar, this becomes even clearer. A father crossing the impossible while his children grow old without him. And even in Dunkirk, behind the war and the tension, there's still this basic idea: men desperate to get back home. And when you see that, you can't help but feel that this film is way too personal for him. And there's something Nolan told Stephen Colbert that makes all of this even clearer. He said he decided to make the Odyssey because of the dog. And when he explains the reason, everything makes sense. Nolan only got a dog after his kids went off to college. Years without a dog, kids growing up and leaving home. And then he read about Argos, Odysseus' dog, who waited 20 years for his master. When Odysseus returned in disguise after decades away, almost no one recognized him, but the dog did, and died soon after. Did you know that? Because when I read it for the first time, I had to stop. And then I understood why Nolan made this film. But there's one more scene in the trailer that needs attention: the Cyclops. In the trailer, Odysseus whispers, "I think he's asleep." And right after that, chaos erupts. Screams, destruction, panic. That scene got to me. I wasn't ready for it. It's practically the only clear joke in the trailer, and that's important. Nolan has a reputation for being serious, cold, cerebral, calculated, but the Odyssey needs to breathe. The original story has horror, violence, and tragedy, but it also has cunning, irony, and moments that are almost absurd. Odysseus doesn't win because he's the strongest. He wins through cunning, not strength. And this shows that Nolan understood something important. The Odyssey can't just be a solemn march of men staring at the horizon. It needs to have fear, yes, but it also needs to have cunning. And then comes the question I've been thinking about ever since the trailer came out. How is Christopher Nolan going to film the impossible? This is the guy who actually built the rotating hallway in Inception, who always tries to make the absurd feel physical. He likes heavy cameras, real sets, texture, dust, water, fire, bodies in space. Now he needs to film cyclopes, sirens, gods, the underworld, and divine storms without it looking like an expensive video game. And the soundtrack is by Ludwig Göransson, the same composer as Oppenheimer and Black Panther. Someone who already watched the film's prologue in December said that the music builds a tension you can physically feel in your chest. Göransson and Nolan together again. It has worked before. And look at what this film is already doing even before its premiere. Tickets went on sale a year before the premiere. In 12 hours, half of the IMAX theaters in the United States were already sold out, bringing in $1.5 million in a single day. IMDb ranked it as the most anticipated film of 2026 before its premiere, before even a single scene had been shown in theaters. And Variety predicts that it could surpass The Dark Knight to become the highest-grossing film of Nolan's career. The internet is up in arms, but the internet also thought Oppenheimer would be boring because it was long, talky, and full of men arguing about physics. The film won 7 Oscars. Odyssey premieres on July 17, 2026 in theaters. I've already bought my ticket, and in July we'll find out who was right. Are you on Team Daddy is Unacceptable or Team Trust Nolan? Comment down below. I want to read every response. Before you go, a personal request. I wrote a book called Baldan the Last Link. This book is a childhood dream. I first wrote down the initial ideas in the back of my school notebook, but then life happened, work, studies, responsibilities, and I kept putting it off. Now, with life a bit calmer, I was able to finish it. It's the first volume of a trilogy, but the story is bigger than that and could grow even more. It's available on Amazon Kindle. If you enjoyed the video and want to support me in some way, just taking a look at the book already means a lot to me. We're starting this journey together. link in the description. Thank you so much. If you like the analysis, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This is Gui Santos, and I'll see you in the next video.